Perfect. So, welcome everybody. It's very early in the morning for me right now, so I probably sound super tired. And, of course, I'm sick because it's the winter. So I'm trying to stay as awake and alert as I can during this. But, no promises. Made those off in the middle of it. But, yeah, welcome. I've never done anything like this before. It's probably the first time a lot of you guys are hearing my voice. I'm Foxes, as you could probably guess. And today I'm going to be kind of breaking down a little bit of how I do that West Coast funky house bounce kind of thing. I've been making it for about a year and a half now, and I think I'm probably competent enough to, give out the details on how it all works. I'm going to assume, for the sake of this video, that you already know a bit about FL Studio. You kind of understand how it works, what some plugins do. I'm by no means an expert. I've been kind of figuring this whole thing out as I've gone along. So if I say anything wrong or stupid, please feel free to correct me. So what I've got going on here, picked out a nice sample. It's a Kerry Chandler sample. And the way that I find my samples is kind of just through the YouTube rabbit hole. It just, let the algorithm take me wherever it wants to go. But, yeah, so I've got this sample, and as you can see, I've got two of them. They're nice and stretched out already, and I'll kind of give a rundown of how that works. I didn't really want to show that because it's boring. Everybody, I think, at this point knows how to stretch a sample. But main thing you want to do, grab a part you like. You can use any tool you like, DirectX, Slice Extract Wave, Edison, if you're really feeling fancy. But I just kind of do it here in the mixer and just use the waveform here. You can kind of visualize how the song looks. You can see where the beats come in. I've made sure they all stretch up to the measures here. And the only thing I've done here thus far is add an EQ, where I drop the low end out, and that's a preset. That's this preset right here. So you want a 40 hertz, 18 kilohertz. I drag it all the way up here to the top of the bass, right here at this little line here. That way you get a little bit of extra lows, but nothing that conflicts too much with your 808 that's going to go in there. And the only other thing that I've done is add a limiter. And that's for side chaining with the kicks. But that's going to come in later. I haven't done anything with this yet. So we'll take a listen to the sample and hear what it sounds like right now. And in terms of the samples, what you really want to go for if you're trying to make this house kind of stuff, and you'll notice that I'm 220 BPM, but that's because I'm double timing it. Really, the samples you want to look for are in that 95 BPM to maybe 125 BPM sweet spot. A lot of house songs work perfectly. Funk songs, R&B, that can do really well as well. If you go for anything lower BPM than that, you may end up with nightcore, which nobody wants. And if it's too fast, you'll end up with like vaporwave. So that little sweet spot is kind of where I look for in the samples, which a lot of house songs fall into. A lot of house songs fall right around the 128 BPM range, which I think is pretty much perfect for this. And for stretching it, I started at about 130, dropped it down, double timed it to 220, with all the effects and everything like that. I think this will work perfectly. So the next thing I do before I do anything else is I'm going to throw my master channel on. And the master channel that I use in pretty much every song comes from kit number 2. This is free on my SoundCloud. You can go download it right now. It's a Google Drive link. No ads, no nothing like that. And that's just this master channel preset here. This is very similar to the Jason Witch one. Oh my god, Jason Rich. Richie Rich. And I use Maximus, which is the same plugin that he uses. Also EQ it. I try to raise up the low mids and mids a little bit here, just to kind of give it a little bit more, because you can kind of scoop out the mids sometimes when you're putting in percussions and editing samples and stuff, and this kind of just corrects that a little bit. And then I have a limiter, just to make sure that it doesn't do anything crazy. Blow out my speakers, or, you know, more importantly, clip on SoundCloud, which everybody hates. So I got this sample here. I've now got my master channel in, which makes it just a little bit more sparkly. And I guess the next thing I'm going to do is add in some claps. And there's a lot of places to get claps. You can use snares. Certain snares work really good for West Coast stuff, but I like to use claps because I think they're a bit more organic, a bit more funky. Whole bunch of claps I would recommend. Jason Rich has a whole bunch. Wheezy Shows the Screen has a bunch. WLSF has a bunch. But I have this West Coast drum kit, pretty much specifically made for this purpose. It's got a whole bunch of nice little kind of funky claps. They're not anything crazy. They just kind of go in here and fill out the sound. I'm going to layer a few claps just so you can get kind of a fuller sound. And then the last thing I'm going to do before I move on to my percussions is I'm going to add a little bit of a clap here off measure. This will add a bit of the bouncy stuff, and it will kind of coincide with the 808s when we add those later. That's really the main element which ties this all together in terms of making it funky. So I'll listen to this. Oop, that's very off. See, I forgot that I double timed it. Alright, you can see how tired I am. But this is the reason that I double time it, so this way there's a lot of room to put all kinds of things in there and make sure that they're not conflicting with one another. And I'm gonna just throw that in right now. Get another little pattern here. I'm not gonna do anything with that yet, but you know, here. And that kind of, you know, adds a nice little clap. We'll throw that on the mixer track in a little bit. But I'm gonna get some other percussion stuff from this. Cool. So I'm gonna add that in. Very nice. Oh, actually, that sounds kind of cool though. Awesome. Air that on top of this, and now. And kind of what I'm going for with these percussions is just kind of anything that really catches your ear. Something that sounds a little bit funky. Just trying to see if I should. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to do is add in some hi-hats. And with your hi-hats, you really can use anything. Trap, phonk hi-hats work perfectly for this purpose. I really didn't have to look too hard to find something that works. Kit 3, there's a whole bunch of them. My favorite one is the Ivana hat. Shout out to that song, amazing. Wonderful song. And with this one, in terms of the waveform, the only thing I want to do is make sure cut itself is on. This will make sure that the little tails of these guys don't interfere and make a whole bunch of ugly noise. And then you can kind of just throw these down in a 4 on the floor kind of deal. And I just use this preset right here. And then I'm going to throw in a little extra bit just to give it a little bit of variety. And if you want something that's a bit more kind of in-depth, adaptive, he's on Reddit. He has an amazing kit full of just all kinds of MIDIs and stuff that work pretty much perfectly for the purpose. And actually, you know what? Maybe I'll use one of these, because this will just give you a little bit of some rolls and stuff in there without having to do it yourself. You can do rolls, but I'm extremely lazy, so actually I won't do that. And we'll see what this guy sounds like on here. Cool. So I think that fits in pretty well. The next thing I do before I add my kicks, specifically with the West Coast style, is I throw in my my 808s first. That way, because the kick isn't on every single 808. Sometimes there are 808s which just kind of come in on their own. They don't have anything side chaining them, no kicks, nothing like that. And my absolute favorite kit to use is Sky's kit, his fourth one. This has got all kinds of different funky 808s. This one's one of my favorite. You definitely heard this one before. This one's another one of my favorites, and I think I'm gonna go probably this one. And for the 808, there's a little bit more mixing we have to do before we can really get to throwing in the pattern. Number one, you want to turn on cut itself. Number two, make sure that loop points is off here. That way it won't loop itself. And then you want to come over to your envelope, turn down your attack, turn up your hold, and then turn on the rest of this stuff. And the reason that you want to do this, get this little square, is that way when you press down, it stops as soon as you let up. So that you can kind of choose when you want your 808 to come in, go out, and just makes it a little bit easier. And now we got this thing going, and that's pretty much it for this. On the mixer channel, I'll explain what I do there a little bit more, because that's kind of really annoying, dealing with sound cloud compression and the algorithm and all that kind of stuff, but it's definitely doable. Just kind of balancing your sample and your 808s, and making sure that your lows and highs and mids don't conflict with one another. But yeah, so I'll get down to throwing this pattern on here now. And the pattern that I generally do, and this is what kind of ties the whole funky bounce thing together, you want to go for this right here. So instead of going boom, 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 you want to go boom, boom, boom. Which I know doesn't make a lot of sense, but you'll hear it. So if I come into here, you'll see I just threw this down. This 808 right here will go in between kind of the measures here, which is what you really want when you're going for something a bit more funky. And I guess I can kind of throw in some more of these. I'm going to put one on every measure. And this will allow me to fill it in later with more 808s, more variation and stuff, but just as something to put down right now, so you can hear what I'm talking about. So we'll take a listen to that. Alright, so already you can hear kind of how that little bit of that bounciness is coming in, and yeah, from here, before you tune it, I usually just add in some extra 808s here, so you can get a little bit of variation. Awesome, so now we got our variation. We'll come in here into our thingy, whatever this is called, your piano roll. And now what we want to do is find the key. Now there's lots of ways to do this. You can go online, look it up, that's super easy. But since I've stretched this sample, I'm going to do it by ear. I can tell this is a little bit pitched up, so. I think it's on. I think that's where my. Alright, perfect. So that will do really nicely. And actually on this sample, this little house sample here, I'm going to throw an extra something on. This is a plugin called Kickstart. It's by Nicky Romero. It's effectively an automation for sidechaining. You can absolutely sidechain using the limiter and all that kind of stuff, and that will give you the same effect. But again, I'm extremely lazy, and I don't feel like doing that, so I won't. I'm going to put a little bit of an envelope on here, drag it down to about this. Awesome. So that's sounding really good, and we got a whole bunch of patterns now in drums and things. So next, what I usually do before I throw my kicks, I'm gonna put these things on the channels that I really want them on. So generally what I use, clap snares on 3, hats on 4, 808s on 5, kicks on 2. Now that we've got that in here, we can start messing around a little bit with that 808 some, because it sounds okay, but I think it could sound a lot better. And I'm actually gonna use a preset real quick, but I'll explain what the preset is. So I have this this 808 here. Oh god, voice crack. This one is for like the really heavy, like trill type stuff. And really all it is an EQ that brings up the lows, drops the mids a little bit, cuts out the highs. And then I have a stereo enhancer. I'm actually not going to use this. And then the only other things on here are a clipper. This is just to make it louder. And then a limiter for sidechaining it to the kick. And that's pretty much it. And you'll hear it. Alright, cool. So that's sounding really good, actually. And the next thing I'm going to do is throw in a kick. So I'm going to come... Jason, or just kidding, I'll use his. He's got a whole bunch of kits that are really nice, and this kick in particular is one of my favorites. You probably heard this one on songs before. I'm going to throw this on insert 2, actually. And before I start throwing in my kicks, I'm actually going to sidechain. So come down here, sidechain it, come over here, sidechain it. That's sample 808. Since I already have a limiter here that I didn't have to set up the sidechain, but on this one I will. You want to come into here, I already dropped the threshold, turn up your knee and ratio. This kind of just pushes the sound down a lot when that kick comes in. And then you want to come down here, sidechain, and select insert 2, which is our kick. So now, if I isolate this, pull out our kick, And now you can hear how that kind of drags it out. And the way that I do, or I layer my 808s and kicks, is that I try to put kicks on the important like measures. So I go boom, 808, boom, which sounds like this. And then I always try to do it on this first measure here. So when that first 808 of the measure comes in, and you can also put kicks where there aren't any 808s, just for a little bit of extra effect, just to keep it interesting and varying. And yeah. So that's sounding awesome. Next thing I'm gonna do is come get my kick preset, which is here as well in kick 3. This is my umbral kick preset, and all this does is adds a little bit of oomph to that kick, clips it up a lot, makes it super loud. People always ask me, they're like, how do you get your 808s so loud? It's not the 808s, it's actually the kicks. The 808 just kind of serves to mellow out the kick. The kick comes in, punches through the mix, 808 just kind of simmers it out a little bit, almost like a ripple. And then the only thing I think I have on here is to just drop the high ends out if there's any residual garbage up there, because there often is with samples. And with this, now sidechaining to these, it sounds like so. And with everything else, awesome. So I think that works very good. Next thing I'm going to do is probably grab a loop. And my favorite place as of recent to grab loops is from Pygmalion's Kits. He's another phonk producer who's very talented. He makes a lot of his own melodies and loops and all kinds of stuff. And especially these character loops, these are awesome. And yeah, I'm gonna kind of double time it, which is super weird, but probably throw a kickstart on this as well. Drop the volume a little bit. We'll see how that sounds. Yeah, it sounds okay. Let's see if we can't find another one. This one's okay. Alright, so I actually like that one a lot. And I'm going to throw this on mixer 6. Again, come into your EQ. I use this preset. Just drop out your low end. That way it's not conflicting with anything. Yeah, let's see how that sounds. And now if we turn on everything else now, we'll see. And actually, one more thing I'm going to do here. I'm going to come over to my sample, and I'm going to throw a plugin called Sidewinder. This one's free. It's awesome. It's a stereorizer, and with this one I just drop the width all the way down, make it nice and wide, turn the tone up, make it nice and sparkly, and makes a pretty noticeable difference. So that's actually looking really great. The next thing I do generally is add in some hi-hats. My favorite hi-hat, and the guy who invented its favorite hi-hat, that being Mr. Ridge himself, is which one is it? Oh, it's in the open hats. So every once in a while, I don't know which folder I'm selecting. I think it's the signature open hat. Yep. Drop the volume out a lot because it's quite loud, and then we'll usually add it onto every measure here, like so. I'll fill it out nice, and this kind of just sits in the little back, adds a little bit of nice high-end white noise kind of stuff, and alright, so we've got ourselves a nice 2-measure loop here. And I'm going to try and turn this into a little bit of a drop. I'm not going to do anything crazy. I'm not going to arrange a whole song here. But I am going to make a little bit of an intro here. And one of my favorite ways with these kind of beats is to grab the house parts, which I can just extend my sample here because it is stretched. And I'll just kind of grab it. So actually, I really like this part. Oh baby, you are in my system. I just want you to know that. So I really like this loop here. Got me burning, burning, baby. Let's see what this sounds like actually. Day by day and night by night, I see you in my mind. It happens all the time. You know my daydreams stop, my heart beats on. Okay, so I'm kind of rambling on here, but let me just grab this. And to fade this in, I'm going to grab a little bit of a master automation here. Make sure you copy your point. I think mine's at either 78 or 80, 77. Yeah, so I don't pin this thing all the way up against the that little bar there, just so it doesn't clip. And then I'm going to drag this down, maybe get a little bit of a curve. And then here, I'm going to bring this sample back, kind of fade it in. This is a new FL11 feature actually, which is really nice. I'm going to drag that out to about there. So we'll see how that sounds. Got me burning, burning. Maybe bring it down a little bit. Got me burning, burning, baby. Alright, awesome. So that sounds pretty cool. Trying to think. Trying to decide actually what I want to do. Maybe I'll bring this over a measure actually. I'm gonna do something funky here. And got me burning, burning, baby. Cool. So the next thing I'm going to do, add a little bit of another EQ here. And I'm going to take this one all the way up to the top here, grab this, make an automation clip on that, that's for band 7. And I'm gonna start it off. Maybe down here. So it comes in, EQ will be nice and low, the highs will come in eventually, and that sounds like this. And that's kind of how I do that little effect. I do this all the time in my songs. In my system, got me burning, burning, baby. Alright, so I'm going to take out this little bit here just so I can have a little pause there before that beat comes in. I'm going to grab some transitions. Jason has a whole bunch of them here. This one's pretty cool. I'm going to give it a little bit of a fade, so that will kind of give us a little bit of a drop in that sound right about there. Right when that thing comes out, so it goes. And get a little bit more of a tail. Drop the volume just a tad. And then I'm going to throw in a crash from my drum kit. This is just like a standard trap crash. Pretty much. Alright, awesome. And we'll see how that sounds. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to copy all this, paste all of this, put it right next to itself, make sure it's not stretched incorrectly. And I'm actually going to delete these up here, the sample, and I'm going to put in the original. See how that sounds. Drop out 808s and kicks maybe a little bit. Add another little bit of a crash here. I'm going to get a little bit of a subtle crash. Throw that in there as well. So, let's see how that sounds. Alright, awesome. So you know what actually I'm going to do? I'm going to grab this part instead. Throw that in here and see what that sounds like. Alright, awesome. So I think that's looking very solid. Obviously, there's a lot more that goes into these, but this is just kind of a basic breakdown on how I started doing this stuff, how I figured it out, how it all comes together. As you can see, it's mostly patterns, not a whole lot of loops. Really what you want to go for is a lot of different variations and sounds and things, trying to fill out as much of that ear space as you possibly can. I mix on a pair of Sony MDRs, so it's, you know, I hear that kind of stuff, and I appreciate it when other people do it as well. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so obviously I know I gloss over a lot of stuff, but I think this is a decently helpful guide to anybody who might be looking to make this kind of thing. And I will leave this FLP in the description of the video, so that way you can download it, peek at it, mess around with it, do whatever you want. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you all later.